Hey guys, Bobby Stephanos, Revive Proactive Health. Today we're going to talk a little bit about pre-workouts, pre-workout drinks, supplements, and so forth, how they work, why they're really good to take, things that will prime your body and enhance your workouts and give you better stamina and quicker recovery and so forth. And there's tons of things on the market today, proprietary blends, cloaked blends and so forth. I'm not going to go specifically into the brands and so forth because there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and you get jacked and C4 and dust and assault and NO2 explode, and it's it sounds more like something military that we're going to go on a recon mission with than what we're going to take for a workout. But you know what? These things, if they're done properly, really give you that kick. They give you that focus. They help your body recycle its energy and give you that extra endurance. Many of these things are natural things that your body typically holds on to, and if you're not eating properly, you know what? You'll have a deficiency in one or two of these things. But some of these things aren't held well. It's kind of like the analogy I tell people. It's like, your battery in your car. It has a wicked charge, but you know what? Without that alternator recycling that energy, by the time you're down the street 15 minutes, guess what happens without alternator in your car? The battery goes dead. So that's kind of what pre-workouts do. They'll use a stimulation component, and when you say stimulation, like caffeine or tyrosine or something like that, you'll see me revert to some of my notes because I wanted to hit some of these things. But what those do is they'll speed up your metabolism, your heart rate a little bit, but they also neurologically get you focused also. That's why everybody drinks coffee today. But usually 100 to 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine or tyrosine in a pre-workout, and that will get your heart rate going, and that drives the blood with the other mechanisms or the other components of the pre-workout into the muscle, in through your body that much quicker. So depending on the stimulation factor and so forth, that determines how quickly the pre-workout gets into your system. So sometimes you take a pre-workout, you need to take it with no stim. You might need to take it a half an hour, 40 minutes before you get the platform or the saturation level that's required for you to take advantage of it. Some pre-workouts, you need to take them on a regular basis. For instance, creatine and so forth. Creatine helps recycle the energy in the muscle, the ATP. But the problem is, just taking it pre-workout, you don't get enough into your muscle right before. So you need to stay on something with creatine on a longer basis. So the muscle needs to absorb it over the course of time. And what that does, it acts like the alternator. As you burn up energy, the ATP is broken down, and basically what creatine does, it helps reformulate ATP from a diphosphate to a triphosphate, and boom, you've recycled the energy, you have better stamina, strength, and endurance. It doesn't pump you up. The things that pump you up in a pre-workout are the vasodilators. The vasodilators, citrulline malate, L-arginine, agatine, these things go in and relax blood vessels. Things like they're used in sexual performance drugs also, vasodilation. The big ones out that are banned by the IOC and the NFL, Viagra, ED drugs, because what they do is they expand and allow blood flow to go to the parts that you need for sex. Well, guess what? That runs through your whole body. Anybody takes any of those things, especially like L-arginine, they feel that blushing type feeling all over there. Those are the little capillaries opening up. And that helps allow blood flow with the components like creatine to go to the areas that you need to. And when you're stimulating yourself in terms of whether it's sex or it's working out, your blood flow is directed in those areas. So vasodilation is really important because that's what you're trying to enhance performance, whether athletically or sexually. Vasodilation is important. So boosting that nitric oxide with citrulline malate, with L-arginine, those are the things that open you up. So when you're looking at a product, you're going to look at a couple things. Do I need stimulation? So in other words, do I need caffeine or a boost of energy to get that focus? Some people do. I like a little bit, but not too much. Otherwise, if I work out at night, it will impair your sleep. It will raise cortisol levels, and that can defeat the whole purpose. Some of these things that are so powerful that, you know what, you have an incredible workout, everything works well, but you're wired for the next 3 hours. Well, guess what? If your body can't calm down post-workout, if it's so wired, guess what? You're not going to recover well. You're going to retard muscular recovery, your connective tissues. You're going to produce a lot more stress hormones, cortisol, and so forth. It can interrupt your sleep where you have proper hormonal cascading normally happening. You're going to interrupt that. So it's going to mess everything up. So you've got to find that blend, and everybody has a certain, your body's adaptive, so you've got to find out, what do I need, and don't take so much that you're whacked out. And I know the younger generation, man, they're brought up on, the Red Bulls and the energy drinks and so forth, and so they have a higher threshold, or they're resistant to lower dosage of caffeine and so forth. So they've got to take higher ones. But the name of the game is, those things can wreak havoc. Another one is Yohimbe. Yohimbe is another vasodilator. It's a natural product, and it boosts your energy also. It can cause tremors and jittery feeling. It curbs your appetite a little bit. The same thing with a lot of the stimulation. So the stimulation basically gets the body going, gets the focus, gets that punch that you need. But don't take too much. Just take enough that get through that workout so you have a good, brisk, intense workout. Then what you want to do is you want those levels to fall off, and then you want your body to be able to recover. So you have something that stimulates your system. You have something that actually helps recycle the energy, the ATP. That's creatine. So you use creatine. The other component is something that buffers the pH. When you're working out, you're producing a lot of organic waste, lactic acid. You want to keep that pH down. The way to keep the pH down is use a buffering agent. Usually most of the companies out now use something like beta-alanine. Beta-alanine keeps that pH down. When the pH is down, you have more endurance. More endurance gives you more stamina, and you can train a little bit harder. You'll grow, or you'll get in better shape, or have better endurance. Beta-alanine is one of those products that, or amines that just work phenomenally well. And it's one of those things that works well, keeps the pH down, and allows you to continue your workout. Something else you'll hear about, like betaine. Betaine is taken from beets. It's a methylator. Basically what it just means, methylation, whether it's in B vitamins or betaine, something like that, it helps the body process organic waste and nutrients. In other words, with betaine, for instance, you have better liver function. So when you're working out, you're training, the liver is under a lot of, doing a lot of different functions. It's releasing hormones, releasing nutrients that you've eaten, and it's also breaking down and getting rid of them. Methylation optimizes that process. And when that happens, you get better nutrient uptake, and you get a better waste management situation. So, and when you do that, there's less acidity, less inflammation, you're in a healthier state. So that's what you want to look at too. You want to take a look at things that methylate. For instance, B12. B12 is, people take a lot of B12 orally and so forth, and doctors prescribe it, and they'll give cyanocobalamin, which is a type of B12, and then there's methylated or methylcobalamin. Methylcobalamin, they're both the same dosage, exactly the same vitamin, but when we methylate that B12, methylcobalamin, you have 80% more uptake of the B12 that gets in your system, and B12 cuts inflammation down, immediately cuts inflammation down, especially within the liver, in the cardiovascular system, and it helps mobilize glycogen, the energy in your blood. So when that energy is mobilized, guess what? More endurance, more stamina, less inflammation. That's what you're trying to do. These things work synergistically together. So you're going to buffer your pH. You're going to have good energy with a stim. If you don't need a stim, you don't need a stim. You can have a cup of coffee. That's usually 150 grams of caffeine in a regular cup of coffee. But some of these things out there have 200, 300, 400 milligrams. They have all kinds of stuff that just will, synephrine and so forth, that will just blast you in terms of energy and so forth. And you'll see some of the things like bitter orange extract. That's a derivative of synephrine. and it stimulates your body. It does have some properties in terms of fat burning. It'll curb your appetite and so forth, but you got to be aware of what you're taking. Leucine, it's you'll see that in a pre-workout. I don't know why they put L-leucine in pre-workouts. Seems like something that you should be taking post-workout, because L-leucine stimulates dopamine that you relax. And when you relax, that's when cortisol levels drop. When you relax, that's when you stimulate natural hormonal production or cascading, and for some reason I see that in some of the pre-workouts. Is there a difference between the creatines out there? There was a question out there, and fundamentally, there's hundreds of variations of creatine. Every company comes out and they'll add something, they'll bind it, they'll chelate it, creatine nitrate, they're trying to maximize the organic load. The idea, though, is to take creatine on a regular basis. It doesn't put weight on. Creatine goes into the muscle and recycles energy. It doesn't get you water weight. People always come to me, I put on a lot of water weight when I use creatine. The simplest form, creatine monohydrate, if you're taking 5 micrograms twice a day on a regular basis, you're going to have incredible, your body will have the incredible ability of recycling its energy. It's night and day difference. If you use creatine and you only use it for 6 weeks at a time and cycle it and then come off, what happens is there's a huge loading platform or stage or time where it takes to build that back up within connective tissue, muscle tissue, and organ tissue. So it takes you 2 to 3 weeks to get back to that saturated optimal rate to have creatine. And so some of these things like creatine nitrate and so forth, they claim that there's a quicker or shorter loading period, but it's such an inexpensive thing to take. Creatine monohydrate, and they're usually in most of these things. So you could take it just as a part of the supplement in the morning and at night, and you'll always have it. But if you don't, if you're on a pre-workout, then you need to take that for creatine loading. You got to make sure that you're getting that on a regular basis. Otherwise, what happens, you go into a depleted state. So those are the kind of the things generally that you want to look at. You want to look at stimulation, to neurologically get you focused and so forth, give you energy. You want to have something that recycles energy. You want to have something that retards acidic buildup. You want to have something that enables your body to methylate or can manage waste products in your system. And that's the fundamentals of pre-workouts. And there are many of them out there. There's new generations that are based on more of, there's more stim and stim. I see reformulations all the time. And the sorry fact that there's too many proprietary blends out there. So you just don't know what you're taking. But fundamentally, the stim component is just getting out of hand with a lot of people. So you know what? You can just go out, get tyrosine, beta-alanine, get some caffeine, get some creatine, and you could probably for $30 or $40 put them all together, mix it up in a glass, and drink it with some. If you want something, if you want a little sugar to drive it in or spike your insulin pre-workout, you can do that. In terms of pre-workout meals, we'll cover that really quickly. But if you're going into lift, you need good glycogen levels. You need good carbohydrates that go in and have sustainability. So when you go in and you want to lift, and you want to have a sustainable workout, make sure you have some carbs. If you want to get lean and you want to do morning cardio and you want to take advantage of the environment, you've been sleeping all night, you haven't had a meal, hopefully 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, glycogen levels go low. In other words, your blood sugar drops. You become hypoglycemic. When you get hypoglycemic, get up in the morning. You want to lean out, walk. Men do walking, brisk walking. Women do high-intensity interval training or interval cardio training, sprint work, and so forth. You'll slide your body from carbohydrate metabolism into ketosis. That's fat metabolism. So there are certain things that you would need to facilitate, for instance, fat metabolism. You want to optimize that. B vitamins, L-carnitine, those are the things that you bring in, and those help and utilize fats as energy. So if you're doing morning cardio to lean out, those are the things that you want to do. B vitamins, L-carnitine. You can use some stem too. You can do a pre-workout too that gives you more, because usually those will have some of those components, those vasodilation, some stem to get you focused, to drive you through that transitionary period where you get a little groggy and tired in the first 10 or 15 minutes of a cardio session. But if you do that, you'll utilize probably 25 to 30% more fat as energy as that if you did the same cardio later that night after work. So, I walk in the gym at night and I see people grinding it out on cardio, and I'm like, you know what? They're not doing it in the morning. They get leaner so much quicker if they did it in the morning empty. So that's something that you want to take into account when it comes to pre-workout meals. If you're getting up in the morning or you're getting up and you're going to lift, well, you know what? You might as well carb up a little bit, some low glycemic carbs, a little bit of protein, make sure you're well hydrated. Go in and train. You want available energy. You don't want to slide into ketosis while you're training unless you're in a ketone diet to begin with. But typically speaking, you want to have that available energy to have good stamina endurance. The pre-workout also helps facilitate that too. So you take them along. And, we offer, all types of injectable pre-workouts too. So, or amino acid blends or fat burning blends. They're all predicated on the same principles that I'm talking about. But the thing is that we know specifically what's in each medication that we give you. Everything is, it's prescribed medication. So if somebody wants a pre-workout or an amino acid blend that gives them more energy or facilitates fat burning, we give them something specific. If you need more energy, we can give you something more specific instead of rolling the dice. And that's the problem with the pre-workouts. A lot of them work. A lot of them become like pixie dust that they put in them. You don't know the values. You don't know the densities of what you're getting in them. The stuff we make, it's all made by U.S. pharmacies. They're compounded in U.S. pharmacies. They're specific. They're inspected. They're tested. The efficacy of them is tested on a regular basis. There's a short half-life on these, or shelf life with these things. I see supplements out there that have supplements that I know break down in 60 to 80 to 90 days in the expiration dates 2 years, a year. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it's a huge industry. Pre-workouts, they can make them for, $3 or $4 and they sell them for 40, 30, 40, 50 bucks a whack. And I mean, so it's a cash cow for a lot of these supplement companies. That's why they're all over the place. But when it comes to training and so forth, you got to do what's appropriate. If you're trying to lean out and you're trying to take advantage of the time. So, if people will come to me and say, well, I can't, I got to do it, like a lot of fighters I work with, they do these really long sessions. And they were asking about pre-workouts. Should I be drinking the pre-workout to keep me going through the whole thing? I said, no, what you should be taking is you can use it, depending on if you're going to do road work first, or you're going to lift first, or you're going to go and hit the speed bag for a while, or do sparring, whatever it is. Use those workouts long. You have to give yourself an interval of rest between them, even if it's 15 to 20 minutes, and get some sort of nutrition in. But what's really important for everybody to understand is that whatever you're doing, how you can facilitate recovery. A lot of people right now are using L-glutamine and the branched chain amino acids, and it's fundamental. It's like nutrition 101. But the branched chain amino acids are short chain amino acids that literally bypass liver function. So you don't have any liver stress. They're targeted. So in other words, if you've got inflammation, or you're training and there's muscular inflammation or joint inflammation, they run to those areas. And branched chains are essential for recovery. Branched chains don't give you any organal distress and so forth. And people will say, well, they're in my protein, they're in my food. Yeah, they're in all those things also. But when they're isolated and you drink them, the ionic effect of how it transfers into your body is invaluable, because it cuts organ stress down. Organ stress cuts inflammation down. There were studies made years and years ago, patients that were burn victims. And one of the biggest problems with burn victims is kidney and liver failure. There's too much organic waste running through there, and they found that by using branched chain amino acids, not drinking them, but they're IVing them, they would really take a lot of the stress off the liver and kidney function, and these people had an opportunity to heal much quicker and they wouldn't break down and become really septic from all the burned organic waste that they had to process. So that bypassing really helps you. And people, you don't need to take, you can take them all day long. People take them, if you're doing cardiovascular work and you're doing your fat burning, you can put those in your protein, you can add electrolytes to them, and you just spike them, use them all day long, and they'll keep your body and your endurance and mental acuity very high. Older people love them. Just gives them much more stamina and endurance. People that train really hard, the fighters and so forth, we use them and we add electrolytes to them. So I mean, when it comes down to certain things, it's when it comes to electrolytes and so forth, you know, if you're trying to lean out, you don't want to use an electrolyte with a lot of sugar. So when electrolytes are used, the quickest way to get them is to cleave them with a little bit of glucose. So you've got to watch out your Pedialyte. So you want to get electrolytes that don't have a lot of sugar if you're trying to lean out and take advantage of a ketosis type state like in the morning. So you can add that, your branched chain amino acids. You can use electrolytes. If you find that you're doing a lot of cardio, you're doing a lot of training, or you're drinking a lot of water like a lot of guys do, and they're cramping all the time, well, guess what happens? You're peeing out all your salt, you're sweating out all your salt, your magnesium, your sodium and so forth, your potassium, and people go, oh, eat a banana. It's not about potassium, it's about all the salt that you lose. And when you lose salt, contraction, expansion, extension, and so forth are retarded in the muscle and the joints and the organs and so forth. So you don't want to create that imbalance. So make sure that you're getting a good electrolyte or a good salt replacement or sodium replacement supplement. Okay. Other than that, hydration, branched chain amino acids. If there's any questions about what we covered so far, you can PM me, email me at bob@revivehrt.com, and I can get really specific. If there's a specific, I hate to go public with specific things because there's a ton of that stuff on YouTube. But if there's a specific pre-workout, you want me to take a look at it, I'll give you my opinion on it. And a lot of them are good. There are a lot of good things out there, and there's a lot of cutting edge stuff out there that's really valuable. But the fundamentals are just, get a little stimulation, vasodilate, get the blood into the muscle, recycle the energy, and keep the inflammation down. And, you can do that nutritionally, but this is something that if you use on a regular basis, it's an invaluable tool. So give me some feedback on what you guys want to talk about, or maybe we'll change up things and maybe do a training session or maybe a cooking session or something like that. Or we'll go back to hormone replacement. We'll talk about HGH, Somorlin, the peptides that are out there. That might be something that a lot of guys, because there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of things on the black market that people are using, and I've got people coming at me, and I've got to explain the value of being medically supervised, getting something from a U.S. pharmacy, not a black market pharmacy, and so forth. That might be something that we might touch on next week. But yeah, give me some feedback, and what we'll do is we'll go from there, and we'll illustrate whatever you guys want to talk about. So have a great one. Thanks for tuning in.